So this is Livecoding TouchDesigner with JavaScript. I hope you're in the right place. So these are the downloads. Does everybody have Visual Studio Code installed and the extension? Okay, cool, awesome. Yes, good idea. It's also, the slides are available on the GitHub. Hey, how's it going? So some of the, I just changed them right now, so some of the links aren't there, but most of them are there. Okay, so we're going to do, so this is what we're going to go over today, a bit about me, because I think that seems to be the trend. I'm going to show you some videos of people live coding. Then I'm going to talk a bit about live coding, a bit about the tool that we're going to be using that I wrote, and then we're going to do some coding. Hopefully 1 through 4 are going to go pretty quickly. Okay, so I am a freelance programmer in Brooklyn. I've done visual since 2014 at various different clubs, and TouchDesigner since 2016. I started doing visuals because a lot of people were using just like videos basically, and I was like, that's stupid. Computers can take an input, so we should do that. I've done visual systems in 3JS and WebGL and Cinder and in TouchDesigner. And now today I'm mainly using Lambda Designer, which is a TypeScript wrapper around TouchDesigner. Yeah. So this is a video of some of my friends in, this one was in London. The sound isn't working because we didn't do that. Maybe it is. Oh, there we go. So the person in the back there is coding in CSS. They wrote their own tool to code in CSS, and to make those are all CSS animations that she's changing live. And then the music, let me see if I can get another picture of that. Maybe not. So that is in this program called Sonic Pi, and it's also live coding. So we'll talk a bit more about the aesthetics here and stuff, but this is what typical gigs look like, with one projector for visuals and one projector for audio. This is me using TouchDesigner. I have my code over there, you can't really see it. And this is also TouchDesigner with some like rendered things and instancing on the GPU. So definition of live coding. There's like a bunch of them floating around, but this is the one that connected with me. So in general, live coding is where people write code using a programmatic language, programming language, in order to change a live process. So rather than writing code, compiling it, and then running it, live coders write code while a computer reads and processes it. So there's less of a time between like writing a code and like seeing a result. So you can go back and forth pretty quickly, and allows for improvisation during performances. So in practice, some of the principles are that you show your work always. You're going to be projecting what's on your screen so that people can read along. People fail all the time, and everybody cheers when that happens because that's the point of doing it live. So one of the other ideas is more abstract, which is like using algorithms as a form of expression. So instead of just like tweaking knobs on like a MIDI controller or something, you're like typing in these more abstract ideas. Like for music, you could have an arpeggiator that is recursive. So you arpeggiate the arpeggiator, and you can like mess around with these ideas as algorithms. Some of the tools that people use, the most popular one is Tidal Cycles, which is an audio thing that's written in Haskell with Super Collider in the background. There's Hydra, which is a visual, hey, how's it going? Visual live coding tool that runs in the browser. I can actually give you a link to that at the end because it's pretty cool. And then Sonic Pi, which you saw earlier in that video, which is also for audio. And Arcadia, which is a live code thing for Unity, being able to like cook into the Unity API directly. One of the things that is cool is that most tools are type checked, so that you don't like crash the program while you're making it. For example, I added in type checking to the tool that we're going to use today, because if you're just live coding like inside of TouchDesigner, if you type something wrong, everything can go black, and that's no fun. So it kind of prevents that. The live code community, it's like spread across the globe. There's big presences in New York, in Sheffield, in like the Netherlands, in Japan, and in Mexico, I think. And some people are here in Montreal too. So all these groups are kind of locally independent. They like put on shows together, and then we'll have visiting artists from different places. We work hard a big thing is to encourage diversity and to create spaces free of harassment, because we are doing like performances, so it's important that everybody feels safe. And that's been a lot of conversation around that. Finally, the performances aren't just about the coding. Like, people dance. They're called algoraves, and people have fun, ideally. Sometimes there's just performances, and sometimes people don't dance, but ideally people dance. So live coding versus node-based programming. I think, in my view, node-based programming is a subset of live coding. So you can see what you're doing, you can see the changes that you're making in real time. But what live coding gets you is that it enables structural changes as well as like parameters. So you can change like the structure of a whole network at once, instead of just adding and removing nodes one by one. And you don't have to have a 3-button mouse. So I don't have a 3-button mouse, which is actually a mistake. I just forgot a mouse pad, but you don't need it for live coding. So Lambda Designer, this is going to be really fast so we can get to the fun stuff. Lambda Designer is the tool that we're using. It is an NPM package. It's built in TypeScript. The name comes from the Lambda being a functional programming icon. And obviously designer, so you're like designing with functions instead of by touching things. It models TouchDesigner nodes as objects with parameters in JavaScript. And there's a visual code integration that's separate, that like has some cool auto-completion stuff and that connects to a running TouchDesigner instance. There are 2 node types. This is like on the technical side of things, I guess. There's a disconnected node that has, so if you think of a node as a single thing, it can have inputs and outputs. Or you can think of a network of nodes together as a single node because it has inputs and outputs. So that's one sort of node. And then a different type of node is once you call run on it. We'll get to this. Once you call run on it, it will connect to things downstream. And that's considered like a compiled thing, kind of. I'm not explaining this very well. I'll leave this out for now. I'll just talk about it when we get to it. So you have JavaScript functions. You can think of functions that create entire networks. If you have parameters for the JavaScript functions, you can change a bunch of stuff in the network at the same time. It's kind of like a replicate comp, but you don't need to do the Python part of it. It's just functions. And you can create custom nodes as a function on inputs. So if you have a bunch of inputs, you can create a node network, and it's treated as a node inside of Lambda Designer. This will make more sense later. Parameters are passed to Python. So Lambda Designer has a bunch of tools for making operators work, and they just fill out the expression parameter in the node. And then you can think of channels as float parameters. So a chop is like a collection of channels, and then channels are float parameters that you can use in expressions elsewhere. So it's kind of just this idea of like making analogies between the two systems so that they all work nicely. There's some technicalities that are kind of interesting, but I'm not going to go over them. because you can talk to me if you are interested. And it's coding time. So that was quick. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that everything is installed correctly. Then we're going to do some basic nodes. We're going to go over connections, functions, functional networks, JavaScript, and then promises. So if you could open this one, let me... if you downloaded the thing, you can open 0test.ldjs.js. And let's grab all of that and copy it into a new file, because we're going to be doing this live. This is in, it should be in the base folder of the Livecode TD workshop. Great question. Let me go back to that slide so you have it. No, that's okay. So it's that one. The top one, yep. Oh, I missed a step in there. You also have to open, there's a file in the TD folder that you need to open in TouchDesigner, not in Visual Studio Code. It's called Functional Designer, yeah. Sweet, okay, cool. So everybody has it running. We're gonna remap the shortcut key so that it actually works, because Visual Studio Code is annoying. If you do Control-Shift-P or Command-Shift-P, I'm going to do my version, and go to Preferences, Keyboard Shortcuts, JSON. So that one. Is everybody there? You get a thumbs up? Sweet. Got it? Cool. So then we're going to, so there's the colon already there. We're going to add a new one. Let's do this. So define key binding in the bottom right and put it to whatever you want. I would recommend Command-Shift-Enter or Control-Shift-Enter. And then press Enter afterwards. Yeah, and then Enter again. Is that okay? Cool. So you should all be on here. And then just type in extension.ldjs run. And save the file. Sorry we have to do this. For some reason, it doesn't like rebinding stuff. So once you've done that, let's go here, and we're going to change this to a rectangle chop. If you take off the quotes and redo them, it should give you a nice autocomplete. And then if you do Control-Shift-Enter, it should work this time, hopefully. Okay, yeah, that works. I would recommend that you do this where you have a split screen, TouchDesigner and Visual Studio Code. It just makes it easier to see what's going on. Sweet. You just all live coded. Good job, workshop's over. Okay, let me take a look at my notes and see what's next. Okay, cool, so we're going to do a basic network. So this is a lot of stuff, so we'll do this together. Let me know if I need to slow down or if this needs to be bigger. Actually, I'm going to make this bigger now because that's too small. Can everybody read that? Yeah? Okay, sweet. Okay, so I'm going to bounce back and forth, but we're going to do it from here. So add in a colon and then parameters. Actually, let me explain kind of what's going on here. C, this variable, is our main program thing. So it's going to have all the methods that we use to create networks. This is top, which is pretty self-explanatory. Create a top node, and I want it of the rectangle op type. You can do c.chop, and it will give you a nice little autocomplete, c.dat, c.mat, and c.comp. So then that works just by itself. Oops. Then we have connect here. So this connects our node, which we've stored in the variable n, right? It connects it to a new top, and it's an out top. So this is going to be at the end of everything, because inside this network, whoops, I've been doing Mac for so long. There we go. Inside this network, we have our rectangle, and it is connected to an out top, and the out top automatically gets connected up here to this little thing. Just makes it easier to work with, so you don't have to like keep going into the network and rearranging nodes and stuff. And then the out thing here, that just means that we're done with everything and we want to compile this and send it out. I think at the moment, the only time you're going to use .out is at the end of everything. Cool. So then we're going to add some parameters. Parameters are just in a object that we create on the fly that senses the second parameter to the op function. There's some nifty autocomplete stuff. If you do Command or Control Shift P and go to LDJS, look up param. Make sure actually there's a new line at the top for some reason. So if you make sure this is the new line here, and then do Control Shift P, look up param. It should be, we're going to use it the most, so it's going to be at the top. And it will automatically recognize that it's inside of a rectangle top and list the things. So we are going to do size. Okay. And press enter, and that will just give you that thing. Inside of here, we're going to do, because size is an XY, size is an XY thing, we're going to do XY parameters, which is XYP. There's a cheat sheet shortcut thing in the, you might want to have that up actually. Whoops. In the GitHub repository. Cheat sheet, which has all of the parameters. Whoops, this is wrong. That's wrong. That's completely wrong. I didn't change that. Whoops. But they're pretty self-explanatory, I would hope. XY is XYP, XY parameters. XYZ is XYZP. XYZW is XYZWP. RGB, RGBP, etc. So because it's an XY parameter, we need an X value and a Y parameter and a Y value. Each of those are floats. So c.float parameter. And we'll do like 0.2. And then c.fp 0.2. And then we'll run it. And you should get a smaller rectangle. Yeah. How you doing? Okay, So yeah, if you see, if something's wrong, it's going to give you an error at the bottom. So like if I missed out on that, it'll give me an error at the bottom and you can kind of see what's going on. So Z, X, Y requires float parameters. Okay, cool. So let's do some resolution. Resolution W, just to get our fingers typing. This is an integer parameter, IP. And we're going to do 1280 for the resolution W. And you can do the lookup parameter. Whoops. If you need to, H, C dot, it's difficult looking up there. And then that will get us a nicer resolution. So we're going to rename this so that we can use it in like a more extended network. We're going to rename it to rectangle. Also, if anybody needs me to slow down, just let me know. And then at the bottom, because we're using n at the end, we'll just do that for now. Yes, definitely. Is that good? Okay, cool. Great. So next we're going to do an edge node. So edge equals, what am I putting here? Anybody? C.edge? What kind of node is an edge node? No, we have, so this is a, what's that? It's a top, yeah. So what am I putting here? Sweet. Okay. And then we've got edge in here. This is not a connection yet. We can create the nodes independently, and then we can connect them together afterwards. Okay. So then there's let rectedge. What am I, if we look at this, right? What am I going to put here? If we have our rectangle in rect. Yep. So instead of connect, we can just do C here, and it makes it a bit faster to type. So let's take a look at that. So it's going from the rectangle to the edge, yes. Cool. Let me get a thumbs up when people get it. Sure. Let me take a look. No, the lets are not capital. You can also use const or var. Yeah, so remember that the n down here is what's being put out. So we have let n equals rect, right, which is defined up here. So what should this be? Nice. Yeah.
So for best practices, do you always keep that n right above your return and then just always change what that n is?
That's what I tend to do during performance, yeah. It's just easier than going all the way down to the bottom.
Cool.
Yeah. Did you get it?
No, I didn't get your n.
Nice. Sweet. So everybody's got it? Okay. Bum, bum, bum. What are we doing now? We're doing some noise because noise is great. Okay. So let's do, let's make our noise. What am I putting here? Yep. What if I want to add parameters to noise? How do I do that? Sweet. So we're gonna do some. You can do lookup parameters if you want, but this one is a bit weird. So transform is not called transform; it's just called T, which is really annoying. But there it is. So transform on this is a XYZ. So we do. What's it gonna be? Sweet. And then what am I going to put here? For if I want to translate it, first let's do translating it not at all. What do I put here? If you take a look at rect. Yeah. And how many of them do I need? 3. No. You can just put in any number. But don't try and put a decimal in ints. I think it should, yeah, it catches that. Cool. So now we're going to connect them. We're going to use a composite top to connect them. So this is a bit different than what we've had before. So first we'll make the composite top. So composite, and we want, for this one, it's operand. And if you use lookup param and you choose you choose something that's a menu option like operand is, it'll give you a list, and you can just type in and choose it. So we're going to do mult. Let me know when everybody's here. Cool. Cool. Okay, cool. So this is a bit different because we're connecting 2 inputs. We can't just use connect because it doesn't, I guess you could connect twice, but I don't like that. So we use a different thing to connect an array of things because JavaScript has arrays. So we'll do rect composite equals composite dot run. So, and then we'll put in an array, and we're going to run it on rect. Let's not do rect edge. Let's just do rect and noise. And finally change this to rect comp. So in the under the hood, what .connect does, so if I do like rect .connect edge, that's the same as edge.run rect. So it connects backwards. Cool. So let's run that. And we have a really annoying resolution. That's because the noise top doesn't have the resolution. I'm going to do something JavaScript-y because it just makes it easier. And then we'll have it for later on. You can do let res at the top. And then over here you do ..res. Whoops. And that takes all those parameters and applies them to, it like adds them to that array. because it's JavaScript and we can do that. Okay, so I'm going to go around and take a look at stuff. Okay, what's up? That was, is that right? I think, yeah, that's right. And then you can just change the size. Oh yeah, I changed the size of the rectangle so it's bigger.
Also, do you know why the transparent is showing as black instead of checkerboard?
I have no idea. Let's go into Lambda in
Is that a touch designer thing?
in the TouchDesigner.
Yeah. Is it just a preferences thing or?
So press Command A and Shift L, and that lets us see what's going on. And then you can toggle on the viewer
For this?
for all of them,
yeah.
or just do, yeah, there we go. So we can see what's going on. Let's see rectangle top parameters. Fill color. If you change the alpha, fill alpha to 0. Oh no. Border, background color alpha is 0. I don't know. I think I've not seen that. But that's right. Yeah. Oh, it was just like explaining what goes on under the hood. It's not important for the rendering. So there we go. And now we have this nice little res thing that we can use wherever. Hayden, you got it? Awesome. You got it? Awesome. Okay, cool. Great job, everybody. What's that? Oh, checkerboard. Oh, awesome. Cool. Good to know. Okay. Noisy rect. We did that. What am I doing now? Okay. Node functions. We get into some JavaScripty stuff. Okay. So let's go back to here. We're going to get rid of edge and rect edge because we don't need it anymore, and it's nice to keep things tidy. Let's. How are we going to do this? Okay. So yeah, we can do it. We can do it down here. So, kind of an more abstract-y thing. Are you good? Yeah. Okay, cool. So kind of a more abstract-y thing is that you can think of nodes as a function on inputs, right? So you have a node and you have a bunch of inputs, and that gives you like a concrete thing. So instead of having a node be just like a single node that is in TouchDesigner, we can create this idea of a node as it's a function that takes inputs and gives you a node as an output, right? So with that knowledge, we can create our custom nodes that kind of contain a bunch of things or take a bunch of different inputs or like do whatever we want with them. So the way we're going to do that is, and this is code I don't use live, so I'm not as familiar with it. We're going to make a thing like an edge node, except it's also going to show the input as well. So it's going to take one input and is going to one input node and is going to take one input parameter, which is going to be the like showingness of the let's just do it. You'll see. So we're going to call edges composite equals. So it's a function. We want to take an amount in that is how much the input is going to be shown under the edges. So that's amount. And are people familiar with JavaScript here? Somewhat? Okay. Python but not Java. JavaScript? Okay, cool. So we're going to use shorthand for declaring a function, which is this. You might be more comfortable with doing equals function, amount, and that. Whichever way you want to do it, it doesn't really matter. So that's going to be a function. We take a parameter input, and then we're going to... where are we? Okay. We're going to return a node. And we're going to use the CC function. I don't remember why I called it that. But there it is. And this is going to create a node from our like custom function that creates nodes. So a node is a function on inputs. So we're going to have inputs. I'm going to use the other style here because it's fun to mix styles. So we have inputs. And then we're going to return a composite. So it's c.top, composite. Operand is going to be add. And then we're going to run because we want to have multiple inputs. We are going to run it on, we're only expecting one input for this. So we're going to do inputs, which is an array 0, which should be familiar. Connect it to an edge top. And we're also going to connect it to a level top. And the level top is going to have an opacity of, it's a float parameter, so it's going to have an opacity of the amount that we passed in up here. And I'm going to put in some comments here. Type's not going to work. Okay. I'm going to change some of the noise parameters really quickly. Let me move this down so that you can see. Okay, so the nice thing about doing this is that if we have something else, so let's create, what's a good one? Let's do the banana again. So if we have the banana, then we can just connect another to it, and it will do the same thing. And we can like change this around. And we can do whatever we want with that. So this CC function is useful, but it's a bit confusing. But I think it's kind of nice to see how the thing runs. Sorry, I can't hear you. So it takes. So if you think of a node as a JavaScript function, or like as a function of a bunch of inputs and a node output, which is the node at the end, you can. That's like what a TouchDesigner node is. So using that abstraction, there must be a way to create nodes using any kind of function that takes a bunch of inputs and gives you a node as an output. So CC does that. Yeah, you can take. I guess it also lets you take. Actually, I don't know if that's true. I think it is. Sorry, I haven't tried this. Sorry. Let's try and make a chop top this way. Top chop. Yeah, so say if we want one that takes in a, no, we'll do this the other way around. Yeah, when you want something which has one input and or has multiple inputs, and you want to use that input multiple times in the network. So for this, there's not an easy way to make this function because we're using the input twice, right? We're using it as a function on the edge, and we're using it as a function on the composite. So instead of like storing it as a variable or doing whatever, we just make this thing, and it says with these inputs, map this output. So we can do that, and then okay, that's not going to work. Never mind. Sorry. Okay, let's go on to the next one, and then we'll probably take a break after that. So now we're going to do some inputs, and there's going to be a few more functions involved. these are kind of like making comps, but a comp is also just a like collection of nodes. It has inputs and it gives you a node as an output. So we can do that with functions. And functions have inputs. They're like comp parameters, except at least for me, it's a bit easier to type out a function instead of like creating a comp and going into it and changing a bunch of stuff. So we're going to do that. For this one, if you just want to copy from 3-functional networks, that's probably going to be easier. No, just the volume function. We're going to do the other ones ourselves. So I guess I'll go through this really quick. We're defining a function called volume. It has gain. So it's going to be like whatever it's multiplied by at the end. Our audio device in chop. Then we have a select chop so that we only get the first channel of it in case there's multiple inputs. Then we're going to resample it. Let me expand these ones out. We're going to time slice it so that we don't get so many. Why did I do this? So that we don't get like a bunch of different, like 44,000 values, and it slows down the whole thing. We just need a few of them. We map it to a math object, which lets us set the gain, the loudness, and then we analyze it as a RMS to get the volume as a single thing. And then we're going to make a volume rectangle. We've done this a bunch of times. Rectangle. We're going to do the parameters. Except this time, so do the res again, so that it's there. This time in size, we start as we did before, because we still want x, y parameters. And let's just set the x parameter to a constant value. And the y parameter, we're going to use this volume that we had, but the volume that we had is a chop, and we need it to be a function, so we need it to be a channel. So let's make a new thing over here. Let volume f equals, the function is c.chan, which is going to take a channel of a chop. Which channel is going to be, you can use a string or an integer. We're going to use an integer just because it's easier. So integer parameter. And then we give it the chop. And then over here, we have volume F, which is what we just made, which is just the channel. And we'll connect it up to what we had before. Run. Something's wrong. So I made the mistake here that volume is not a chop. We need it to have a gain to make it work, because it's a function. And now we can run it. And now we have a thing there, and we can change the gain on it pretty easily. Okay, we have 10 minutes before break time. Let's go. Let's get another one in. What's the next one? Rendering. No, let's take a break now before we get into rendering. Cool. Do we want to continue? Yeah, we're good? Awesome. We'll make some new lines. I'm going to keep all this stuff up here, but I'm not going to, everything is going to be just going to start anew, basically. Okay, so rendering in TouchDesigner, we need a geometry, we need a light, and we need a camera. So let's make some geometry. We'll start with a box. Then we'll make a geometry from it. So because of the way the program works and the way TouchDesigner works, we don't just make a geometry. There's a tox that we have to load to get the geometry to work, but the tox basically works as a SOP input. So whatever SOP you give it, it'll render it. So we're going to connect that up. So cube.connect or .c. We're going to do a comp. It's going to be geometry comp. And one of the parameters is external tox. Let me make sure I'm spelling that right. Yep, external tox. And this is a string parameter now, SP. And that's going to be in visual/geo.tox, I believe. Yeah. For the most part, because you can bundle up functions, like you can bundle up nodes as functions, you don't really need to use toxes, but there are some things that it gets you. So that runs. You can just make sure it runs unless you get errors. Actually, I'll keep going till we get to the end. Then we have a render. It does because JavaScript is interpretive. So if, for example, I put this above where I define cube, it's going to give me an error that cube's not defined. Yeah. There are some cases when that won't matter, but for this, it does. Okay, so we have a render. Do our parameters. Our parameters are geo, which is going to be. So here's another thing: is that the operator parameters have their own parameter functions. Like we have FP and SP and IP. We also have matp and comp and top p. So geo is going to be a comp p. And we're going to pass in our cube geo. We'll create a new light here. And then the last one is camera. And you know what? We're going to keep our edges composed because I feel like it. I think it'll look cool. Sorry, geometry. Okay, something's gone wrong. Oh, this is toxes/visuals. And something else is wrong. Sometimes you don't know what's going on. What's up? It should work before. I think what happened is that sometimes it gets stuck in a state and it doesn't, you have to like shake it up a little bit to get it working. So now it's connected up, right? If you just delete, I'll go around in a little bit. Something else is wrong because we're not getting a render. Oh, we're not, okay. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so the reason that happens is that sometimes the internal state gets messed up because we're doing a bunch of stuff with a bunch of moving parts. The other way to do that is to delete everything in here. Go up and click this like clear local cache thing, and then it resets. I go into the network and I clear local cache, or I like mess around with stuff until it starts rendering again. Yeah. And here again, we can do fun stuff like messing around with the camera. We'll use the transform. Actually, we'll first look at. And because we have everything as a variable, it's pretty easy to do like kubegeo. So it looks at kubegeo. We can run that. And now we'll move the transform around. That doesn't want to go. Okay, for some reason, it decides that it does not want to do that. Okay, we are not going to bother with that then. Okay, let's see what's next. Modules. So we've created a bunch of stuff already, which is useful, like the res parameter and stuff like that. So now we can bundle it up as a module. There's like a specific syntax because of stuff that goes on with how it compiles, which I'm not going to get into. But for now, you can just do this thing, which is let utils equal require which is like a regular JavaScript thing. Utils.ldjs.js. And then we have to give it the parameter that we've been using for everything. Okay, that's not working on Windows. It's working on Mac. So you know how we've been doing like c.ip, c.xoip, all these things, c.top? So that's just a JavaScript object that has all of these methods on it. So the modules that it uses need to be passed that so that it can do this stuff. And it's not working on Windows because I was programming on Mac for the last little bit. So we're going to skip this one. We'll keep on moving. Okay. So, are you guys good? Yeah. Okay, cool. You're messing with something else. Okay, awesome. So now we're getting to the stuff which is why I like using this system a lot, is that you get to do everything that JavaScript brings with it. You get to have inside of this system. So for example, we have arrays that you can't really, like you can do with DATs, but they're not as adaptable as this. So let's start with that. So we'll do const increasing array. And we're going to just populate an array. Is that right? Yes. So that gives us an array. And then we're going to map it, which takes every single array value. So now this is going to give us an array of zeros. Map is going to give us every single value of the array and its index. And then we're going to set the index. So we have an array of values that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., up to 10. So we have like value, index, and I'm going to use short syntax here. We're going to just map it to the index. Because the value, so prototype.fill will give us an array of all zeros, but we want an array of increasing values.
Wouldn't the index be increasing?
Yes.
And so we're storing that. Oh, I see. Okay.
So map takes an array, or you call it on an array, and then it gives you a new array with the result of the function, which in this case is the index. Then we're going to make this into nodes because it's TouchDesigner. So we're going to have text, tops, and we're going to use map again. We're going to take our array of values, and we're going to map. And this time, we're just going to use value, but we can do vi, whichever one you want. And we're going to map them into tops. So same as always, t.top. We're going to do a text this time. And we're going to do parameters. Use the text parameter. And because we have this value here, I guess we could have used I here. Either way. Because we have this value here, we can do whatever we want with it. So we're going to do c.sp, because text takes a string. And we're going to do v, which is a number in JavaScript right now, so we need to make it into a string in JavaScript. So we'll do toString. Okay. And finally, because this is a list, we have an array of text tops, and we're going to take that, and we're going to use a composite top. So text comp We're going to use the operand average, which is c.mt2. MP is a menu parameter. And then we've done stuff, we've done composite on an array of things before on multiple values. So what is the function that we use for that? Let's look up, if you look up a bit to another time, if you like search, Control F composite. So .run, there it takes an array of inputs. And what we have with text comp is we have an array of nodes. So they're the same thing. So you can just stick that in there. So run text tops. And over here, we'll just do text comp. And something is not happy in there. Is everybody getting an error for this if you run it? Okay, I'll go around in a second. It compiled, but nothing's happening. Okay. But there's no inputs. No, I think that there's no connections. Okay, let's do that instead. Let's just make an array like that. I'm going to look up some JavaScript documentation really quick. Oh, okay. There we go. Okay, how we doing?
I didn't get an error.
Okay.
So that I see the same thing.
Yep. So if we actually change array.prototype up at the top to new array 10. Okay. So JavaScript, if you know JavaScript, you can use whatever you want, like JavaScript, like data manipulation before sending it into TouchDesigner, which is super useful because it comes with a bunch of stuff. So Visual Studio Code is made by Microsoft. I made the extension. I use Visual Studio Code for my own like development stuff, so I made the extension for it. The extension can do whatever it wants. So in this case, there's the thing that does the JavaScript to TypeScript. JavaScript to TouchDesigner stuff is an npm package, like a node package. So it by itself is not live. It will like compile JavaScript and send it over like when it's running. I'm not explaining this very well. So then the extension that I made for Visual Studio Code has a running process that lets you do this kind of stuff, and it's like evaluating. It's like doing a .eval on the JavaScript that is shown here. Yeah, does that explain it kind of? Okay, cool. You can, yeah, ask questions, yeah. Okay, I think we're almost done. Yes. So the last thing is promises. Does anybody know JavaScript promises? No, it's so JavaScript has this way of running things where you can say, I'm going to return this function, and when you call this function, it'll give you a value in like however many seconds, or like runs an asynchronous thing, so like a web server call or something like that. And so the final part of this is using that. So we'll just do it. We'll just do it now, so you can see the syntax. So with this, we're gonna make the network run in 3 seconds time as just an easy example. So we'll return new promise, which is a function with resolve and reject. Just like any kind of function you've had before. Make a new line to make it easier. We'll use JavaScript's set timeout. Our handler is going to be a function that returns this value. Whoops. Actually, sorry, it's not going to return this value. It's going to call resolve with this value. And we're going to make this 3 seconds. And I'm missing a parentheses. I'm going to make this a bit tidier because there's a lot of things going on. Okay, and so that it does something, let's change this to new array 1,000, and hopefully we won't crash our computers. So with that in there, you can do things like make a web service request and use the data from that, and JavaScript's good at that. Or do any sort of other like thing where you're waiting for whatever to happen, and it won't lock up the editor. Yeah, I think that's it. So there's still some time left. Yeah, we got like an hour, which is, if you want to mess around, I can walk around and then help you guys out with some stuff. There's a bunch of operators in the live code thing that I use. There we go, that's the extension. So there's like some fun stuff there. They're all operators. So you can take a look at that. That's in the VS Code LDJS repository. There's a link to it in here, in the slides, which you don't have. Yeah, you can mess around for a bit and live code some stuff. I like to do. I like to start with if we do the this is what we were doing before, but this time we're going to change it into a get rid of this. Actually, I usually use a different thing that makes this more interesting, but we can do resolution. And then we also need the output resolution, or which is not going. Anyway, that's weird. Okay. Can start with the noise top. That's a fun one to start with. Which we had up there. And then do whatever you want. Yeah. If you want to keep on playing around with it. Or questions. Sorry, yeah. Yeah. So feedback is a great example because it's kind of difficult to do because you have to reference something that has you have to reference something that is going to be made in the future according to JavaScript. There is, I'm going to just grab the function from here. If you, switching between Windows and Macs, it's difficult. So you have to create, remember how I was saying the function is like, you can create a node from a function of inputs. So that's what you kind of have to do for this. So we have a specific thing called a feedback chain that takes in, it's a collection of these functions that take in like feedback inputs. And this one specifically is doing a fade effect. So we have the composite here. We're going to run it on the inputs that we get to the whole thing. And then we're going to add to that, which is concat. Because we want the original input, and then we want the original input with a level. Yeah, with the level, change the opacity, and then connect. There's like some other operators in here, because this one has mid ops. Let's just do this one. Make this one more interesting by using a T. But it's like that one specifically is a lot easier to do in TouchDesigner with feedback. Yeah, any other questions? Mm-hmm. That's going into opacity. And then we have inputs, which is just the regular function that we were using before. We have this special thing called a feedback chain, which takes the nodes. It's basically everything between the feedback top and the last thing, the composite top, because it's a very specific operation, so I hard-coded that one. It takes those and feeds the last operator in there back into the feedback top. So because the operator that it creates has a composite top at the end, it feeds that one back in. I think there's a more generic way if we do. If we do that one instead, I think that also works. And then we'll do, so this is more generic. Yeah, that should work. There we go. Yeah. And then we can do whatever we want in the middle of this thing. Yeah. Yeah. Other questions? Yeah, see, I think the pulse parameters are actually integers, but it maps the same. Let's see. What's a pulse parameter? Reset. Reset pulse. We don't have that one. We don't have access to that one specifically. What's a good op with a pulse parameter? Yeah, I can't access the feedback one.
Anything where you're playing something, right? Like an extra freebie?
Yeah. Yeah, that has a reset pulse. Sweet. Let's send our noise into a texture 3D. Um, mm, uh, we could try TP. Let's see what it says. Yeah, I think it's an FP. Parent type is not the. Pulse might be its own parameter, and I don't expose it as a parameter here because one of the other features is being able to call, like you can add commands that reset it. So, whoop. I think it's. I need to get better docs. That's what I need to do.
Could you do chain promises where you start off with one and you just reset it to 0 and the next one you reset it back to 1?
So the promises only work with the whole thing, but you could theoretically like run it multiple times. The way it does it in the way the program does it is that it compiles actions as its own thing, and then the TouchDesigner can figure out how to handle actions. So we have, okay, yeah. So this, oops. There we go.
So this is pulsing every 100 frames.
No, this is just, it just calls it once when it sends it initially. No, this is pulsing it for 100 frames. I can also delay it. Is this milliseconds? Oh, I thought I could delay it. Maybe not. Maybe delay's not working right now. Yeah. Yeah. Great question. So we'll do C dot top composite. Oh, it's not working right now, but usually it's that. Let me fix that really quick.
But that won't show it live typing, right? That'll just show every time it gets sent to me.
Yeah. I'd made a bunch of changes before the before this, which was probably not a good idea. But part of live coding is failure, so I'm just practicing.
You could also, is there also a screen capture top?
Yeah. Is there? Sometimes it doesn't like you having TouchDesigner open in the screen catcher top, but let me try it. That's a good call.
I also don't know if it's one of the features that you need one of the higher tiers for. Can't remember if I've like looked at it longingly or if I
Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it won't work in this case because I have half and half. Yeah.
Well, maybe you could. Can you specify?
Let's try it.
Grab just like can you crop it beforehand so it's only grabbing like the left hand side of the screen?
Can crop it afterwards.
That's so fun. Because that way you could probably have it even from live coding.
Uh, is that gonna work? There you go. Yeah. You have to get it out of Visual Studio Code. Yeah. Oh, out of OBS. Yeah. I think that's a. What's that? Spout cam. I think OBS has an NDI as well. Yeah.
So when you live code, do you connect with the musicians and everything?
Yeah. Um, This one, C.shop audio device in is great, and then like a USB thing. I have not connected with the other live code musicians yet. But there's a way to do that, yeah, and OBS and NDI. Yeah, I use the audio output as an input, and then you can map it a whole bunch of ways, and because it's code, there's like the functions are already built up. You can change it from like highs or lows or whatever. Yeah. Yes. So let's do. It's how you would do it in TouchDesigner. What is a good one? No, because that's a. This might be too much for my poor computer, but let's try it. Yeah. Usually I have an eGPU. It did not like that. Oh, whoops. Okay, so it's loading it. There we go. Ah. Although the real way to do that is, and then you can add in parameters to, let me see how I do that. Parameters are just, my computer is really slow. Let's do separation. There we go. Yeah, it does. Okay. I'm going to stop that before it dies. What else? That reminded me of something else. Oh, GLSL. I have utility functions for these in yeah, this is annoying because there's a whole bunch of input stuff. But let's do. Give me 1 second and I'll go back down. Hmm. Um, for some reason it doesn't want to. Oh, there it is. I have the wrong name. Toxis Visuals GLSL. Okay, I gotta go grab it from the other place. Almost there. Oh, there we go. Okay. TD scripts, script/visuals. Okay. Cool. Is that gonna work? Nope. There we go. Nope. What is it not like? High volume is not defined. The composite top always complains if you don't have a bunch of things connected to it, but it's fine. I forgot this one. There we go. Took long enough. Yeah. So this is what I usually start with when I'm doing visuals live, which is just a GLSL shader that maps audio. I'm sure there's a way to do this with TouchDesigner tops nodes too, but I had this lying around from a previous project. Yeah.
I mean, do you usually use tops and 2D textures, or do you use 3D live?
So I used to just do 2D live because 3D was going to be a huge pain in the ass. But the last few times I've performed is 3D live. So like all of this one, those are all instances, which are the code for that is. I'm going to open up a different project, the one that I usually work with. Oh, it's here already. Scratch. Oh, it's not doing fucking requires in. Maybe I'm not meant to swear, I don't know. So yeah, with this we have an instance op, which is a sphere, or like can change it to a cube or whatever, pretty easily. And then for that, I was doing a for that one over there, I was doing a torus instead of a box, but you have like the same thing as you would do. So there's like a SOP that you change to a chop, and then you use the I don't want to do it right now without the require, but what I can do I think this will work. It's a bit verbose. Oh, I'm crashing it because there's too many things. Yeah, that was from a previous one. The nice thing here is I can like, if I name stuff right, which I don't always do, but can change that pretty easily. And then, yeah, so the parent top is here. I'm running it on, this is still the SOP, that's the chop. So I'm running the parent chop on a math object, or a math top. Has some nice scaling things. And we've got the render here. So GeoGeo is a helper function, which takes in an instances op, which is going to be like a the thing that's instanced. A parent chop, which is going to be the chop of the instancing. Scale, camera lights, etc., or light map. So because it's a light map, we can go GeoGeo. Our light map is, change this to whatever. That's going to give us a noise. Oh, it's fading right now. Let's knock that down to 0. It doesn't like the noise there. Yeah, and then I have a bunch of like palettes stored because it's pretty cheap to store them as I can like grab stuff just from a website and stick them in here. And then because we run functions, I can like write a JavaScript function that takes, you can write a JavaScript function that takes all of these colors and sticks them into a ramp or into like whatever else and samples them. And then you can like, basically it's the idea of building up JavaScript functions as like a base library for doing visuals off of. And you can get arbitrarily complex without the complexity of having a bunch of nodes that you have to like keep track of where they are. It's all in one file that you can see. Like while I'm live coding, I'm not going to do, while I'm live coding, I'll do something like, we'll start with N. VC, which is contains all my stuff. I guess it auto populates now. Cool. Which is makes all of the stuff really short. I actually have the edges thing that we were using, that we made earlier. I'm going to make it colored so that we can see it more easily. Anyway, yeah.
Did you start with like a file with anything in it, or you start with blank?
So there's a big debate in live coding about whether you have to start with a blank file or if you can start with stuff already in there. I started with a blank file once at the international conference for live coding when I was in front of a bunch of people and I screwed up really bad. So I have not done that since. Yeah. I personally, okay, a bunch of stuff. You saw like Joanne and Shelley. Yep. Yep. So there's a really cool performer called Dearful. Let me see if I can just search her name. Yes. Let me see if I can get her code somewhere. Oh, cool. It's a tutorial. There you go. Let's go to where she shows up. So she sings, and oftentimes she'll have her lyrics inside of, or when I saw her perform, she had her lyrics typed out inside as comments on the code. So you could like read along with the lyrics as she was singing and like executing these little bits. And then, yeah, sometimes people start from nothing. I think, okay, I don't have any of her live coding. I think she starts from scratch. Yeah. I'm trying to find her lyrics somewhere. Okay, I don't see them. Yeah. No, no, no. Diffle, she obviously does not. She has to suffer now, but I think one of the other people I know does start from scratch. There are a few people start from scratch. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? I personally don't, because it doesn't speak to me as much. But most of the live coders are music people. I think there's like 25% visualists, 75% live code music. Do you do music stuff or? Okay, do you do music inside TouchDesigner? Okay, cool. Right. You can, yeah. Um, I have taken MIDI data from like because you can just make a MIDI top and then you have it input for like doing visuals off of the MIDI data, which is pretty cool. So you can like sync it to whatever they're doing. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you guys for coming. Oh, I didn't do there's like a final thing, because final slide, next steps. So if you're interested in live coding, you can get in touch with me, or look it up online. There's a whole bunch of tools. I think it's a really cool community too. Wherever you are, I can probably connect you with people who live by you, who do live coding, and they have meetups and events, and you can perform with it. The events are called algoraves. They're really fun. Everybody projects their codes and everybody answers, like I was saying. And then there's this website where a lot of the articles are called toplap.org, and that's a good place to start. And that's all of my stuff. Yeah. No. When am I performing next? I just did a couple shows. I think I'm not doing some for a while. The project I have right now is using Unity's machine learning. They have like a machine learning plugin, so I'm like training stuff in machine learning plugin and then live coding it with the Unity live coding thing. Just fun. Yeah, team up with musicians sometimes. A lot of times, not so much anymore because more people are doing visuals. But when I started, people would be like, "Hey, we don't have a visualist. Do you want to do it for the whole night?" And then you just kind of like improvise and like have the audio input and yeah. 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 With this thing, yeah, because it has a script to like connect with the process. Yeah. Um, yeah. Yeah, big community of live code people, definitely, and touch designer people. I just need to make them interact more. So TopLab is global. It was started in Sheffield, I believe. Yeah. Real quick, there's one that is easy um, to like start with if you want to. I think that's the URL. Nope. Okay. So that's hydra-editor.glitch.me. And this is kind of it's not obviously not TouchDesigner. It's just in WebGL. But it's like a fun place to get started with trying out some ideas. If I remember correctly, you do stuff like OSC 10 and then .out 0. Let's get rid of this stuff. Nope. There we go. And it's Control Enter. Yeah. Visual-minded people. This is all in the browser. Yeah. Yeah. That is, let me see if I can get the repo or something. There we go. It's in Clojure. I think it maps Clojure to CSS and then runs that, is my understanding of it. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of different tools. Most people actually use Hydra just because it's easily accessible. So it's like people just start on it. And then for audio, if you're into audio, there's Tidal Cycles is like the mainly used one, and Sonic Pi. I wanted the power of TouchDesigner. Yeah. You can get all sorts of inputs and outputs, and you can I was like live coding LEDs for a while, because you can. Cool. Thank you.